us to write all the steps down with what we're looking at here. Okay, if you want to graph something, this does not look great on my lovely copy. There's a little button right here, and it says just like a y equals. So if you want to graph something, we're just going to start with that button, and it's at the very top left. And can you guys, let me make this a little darker so we can see it better. Now, this, you can literally graph each one of these. You could do a different graph with, like on the same coordinate plane. So that's why there's so many. You could do up to 10 graphs on here. We're just going to do 2 at once. So to type this in, a couple important things. I have a little negative in front of this x squared. It is extremely important. You do not use the subtraction sign. You have to use the negative key that's right under the 3 for that. If you don't, the calculator will not like you, and it will not do it, or it'll give you an error message. So that's important. If you start out with a negative number, or that's just like a little -1, don't use the subtraction sign. You have to use the negative key here. And same thing kind of as you go down the line, if you see here at the end, I am subtracting 3. If you are subtracting something, then, oh my gosh, you guys, I can't even see it on here. I think it's this one right here. You got to use the subtraction button. So that's important. So negative in front of something, like this one also has a little negative in front of it. You got to use the negative key, subtraction sign. You got to use the subtraction key. Okay, now, to make a variable, do you guys know which button you use to make a variable? Probably not. Okay, now, you'll notice if you're looking at these buttons, right, they all have little letters because they have an alpha menu. That's really for programming. That is not to make a variable. To make a variable, the button you want is right next to the alpha key here. And let me just draw to the side. All right, so what it looks like, you should see a capital X and then a T. Theta, if you remember, theta is an unknown angle from geometry, or the letter N. Whoops, I didn't make my little button big enough. That is your variable button. So if you want to type in an X, it's defaulted to be X, but that's the button you want to use to type in a variable. All right, so I'm on this lovely y equals screen. We're just going to type in that first equation. Use the negative key, and then you're going to hit that, here's my finger, xt theta n right next to the alpha key. That will give you an X. Okay, now we're going to square this. There's 2 ways to do that. If you want to just use, let me grab a different color that I haven't used yet on here. This button right here, it's above a button that says log. It just has an x squared. It just gives you the squared. It doesn't give you the x. But if you've typed the x like I just did, we'll just go ahead and hit that button. That'll square it. And then I'm just literally +4 and hit that x button again, that xt theta n. You don't have to put a multiplication sign between it or anything. It'll automatically do that. And now here, use the subtraction key, which is -3. Then all I'm going to do, I'm just going to use like the down arrow key just to go down to the next line. And then we'll type the other equation, which is y equals -x + 1. Again, don't forget you have to use the negative key right under the 3, and then use your variable button, -x, and then just the plus sign and a 1. Once you enter this lovely data to actually look at the graph, we're just going to hit the graph button, which is across the top all the way, here's your graph button up here, to the right. And you can see your system right away. Okay. How many solutions do you guys think this has? 2. Okay, now, here's the deal, and I'm going to write this down so you guys can remember it here. To actually have the calculator tell you the points, and sometimes they're nice numbers, sometimes they're not. It depends on the question they give you. I'm just going to give you the steps to do this. And it's not, you're not going to hit, there's a button that says trace across the top, and a lot of times people want to use that, but that's not going to get you where you want to go. Okay, so I'm going to hit second, and then across the top, the button that says trace, the second function on that says calc, which is the calculate menu. So I'm going to hit second trace. Whoops, sorry, I hit the second first here. Okay, this will bring up your calculate menu. If I'm trying to solve the system, which one of these do you think we want to do? What do you think?
I am stuck with 1 line. I don't know anything. Okay.
Okay, let me start. Actually, let me have you do one thing for me real quick. Okay, do you guys see this button in the middle that says zoom real quick? Just hit that for me real quick. Now, I want you to hit, for this one, number 6. Zoom 6 will just give you a normal -10 to 10 for your x, -10 to 10 for your y. I should have asked that. I apologize. Does anybody's graph, you're not seeing the graph or it doesn't look right? Okay, if you hit that zoom 6, that'll take it down. Okay. Does anybody else, if you want to reset, zoom 6. Okay, is anybody else that's not looking right? That's exactly what we're going to do. We're doing it in a second. You're just ahead of me. Okay, is anybody else's calculator giving them a weird display? Okay, so let me go back to this. All right, so I'm going to hit second trace, and it's going to take you to this calculate menu. What you're trying to find is what these two graphs have in common in terms of a point. So you want number 5, which says intersect. So that's going to find the intersection. So there's two ways you can do that. You can literally arrow down to the 5 and hit enter, or you can actually just type the number 5. It's up to you, and it should take you back to the calculator screen. Okay, now this can be tricky. So it'll say down here first curve, and so that's on the parabola. You can just hit, it'll say on the bottom of the screen, first curve. All you have to do is hit enter. Okay, then it'll say second curve, which is the line here. And then again, just hit enter. And then I don't know why this does this, but under the bottom on the screen it says guess on the bottom. Right? And it's got a little question mark. You don't do anything with that. Just hit enter again. So we're going to basically do this intersect, and you're going to hit enter 3 times, and it should hone right in on the closest intersection to where we hit those buttons at enter. And then it will display to you, here's the actual intersection across the bottom. It gives you the coordinates x and y. So the one that's on that left side there is 1, 0. This one happens to be a nice number. Now, if you want to get the other point, because you guys can see there's 2 intersections here, right? So you have to just completely repeat the process. You can't do it from the screen. So you just go back, you hit second trace, and then again, you can type the number 5 or you can arrow down to the number 5 and hit enter. Now, we're on the intersection that we just found. So, now, do not use the up and down keys. I'm just going to hold down like the right arrow key and just move this. It doesn't have to be right on top of it or anything, but just move it closer to the intersection that we didn't find yet. And what happens if you use the up and the down keys, it switches between the parabola and the line. So we're just trying to move that little cursor over. So just use the left and the right keys. And again, it doesn't have to be right on top of the intersection, just closer to that intersection than the first one we found. And then basically this thing right here, first curve, second curve, guess, you're just going to hit enter, just 1, 2, 3, and then it should again give you the other intersection. It'll hone right in on that point so you guys can see it. And so this one, 4, -3. So then you have an exact value because you're telling the calculator, find this intersection for me. Is anybody having a question or not seeing this, or it's not displaying those values? Okay, let's just go through and we'll just try one more here. All right, so to go and type an equation, you just want that upper left button, that y equals. And if you want to get rid of this, you can hit the little, there's a button that says clear right under the arrow keys, and just clear out those that we had. You could type over them if you want. If I want a variable, I'm going to hit that xt theta n button. To square it, I'm just going to hit the little squared button. and then don't use the negative key. Do -8, that variable button x, plus 12. Just arrow down to get to the next line to type in the other equation. This one's 4x minus 15. Make sure you use the minus sign. And I'm going to hit the graph button here real quick. Okay, now I purposely did this question. How many intersections do you think this system has? 2. Okay, now if you can't see it on the screen, like there's one kind of up here, right? But we can't actually see where the 2 graphs cross on the screen. If you can't see it on the screen, it won't find it. So if that's the case, here's all I'm going to have you do. I'm going to have you hit that zoom button, and we're just going to zoom out, like pull away from it. And it'll take you back to the graph screen. You're going to hit enter twice for it to actually zoom out. All right, so I did number 3, so I could see the graph better. And then you just hit enter 2 times to do that. All right, now I can see both intersections on the screen, so we're good. So then I'm going to go back to that process we just did. Just do second trace, go to your intersect, and then just using the left or right arrow key, just kind of get the cursor. It doesn't have to be right on top of it, but close to one of the 2 intersections. Hit enter 3 times, and it should tell you that point. To get the other intersection, we're just going to completely start over, repeat that process. So just second trace, grab that intersect, and then just use your arrow key. Literally, you can just hold it down. It'll move it a little faster, that little cursor guy, and just move it closer to the other intersection that we just didn't find the first time. Hit enter 1, 2, 3, and it should tell you here, this is 921. Is anybody not getting these or having any trouble? Okay. Okay, we're on the trace. Okay, so we'll do a second trace. And then it'll stay on there. Like it won't go off of that if you're on that. And just 1, 2, 3. Okay, is anybody else having trouble? Okay, now, before we do the next question, just really quick. Oh, sorry, Liam. Okay, you guys, let me have you do one thing. So to reset the window, because this is zoomed out specifically for this system, you can always do this. That zoom and then number 6. It'll say zoom standard. I would just do that real quick before I do the next question. So I'm just going to hit that zoom, and then you can type the number 6 or you can arrow down to it. And that should take you back to the original -10 to 10 for your x, -10 to 10 for your y. And that way we can make sure we start there, because sometimes when you start to zoom out and zoom in, the window of the screen the graph is displaying can get really weird. So if you ever just want to reset that, just back -10 to 10. Oops. My account needs attention for something. Anyway, this is, it'll say standard. What it does is your x values left to right, -10 to 10, and your y values up and down, -10 to 10, and that's just like a default window. So if you ever want to just go back to a normal window, zoom 6. I use that all the time. Okay, so let's try one more. You guys try this on your own, okay? I don't remember what the answers are, so I'm going to go up here and do it on my calculator real quick. But see if you are doing the steps and remembering what you should do and the buttons you should push, so that way we can come help you if you have a question. Now, very important, remember, if you start out with a negative number, the second equation in the system here starts out with -5. Make sure you use the negative key under the 3 to do that. And if you put that back to the zoom 6. You should be able to see this on the screen. If you're feeling comfortable with this, on the back side of the notes, I'm just going to work through this with you on desmos. So if you want to pull your laptop out for the second half of this, we're going to use desmos on the calculator, or on the desmos actually graphic calculator. No. This is, you're good. You're good. You see mine's exactly the same. Okay. So we're just going to round it. Okay. Now, you guys, on this last one, I don't know if you guys can, let me zoom in on this maybe a little bit so you can see my screen. So sometimes on the graphing calculator, this will happen. Oh, this is not the best focus here. But do you see how this says like negative 3.001? And maybe your calculator did that, maybe it didn't. It depends on it. So sometimes there's a situation where the calculator has a weird pixelation. That would round to negative 3. So if you get something like that, that happens every once in a while. It has to do with the pixelation on the screen. Just go ahead and round that. That it should be negative 3 is the actual answer there, and then negative 5 is the y coordinate for that one. But if you get, I'm glad that displayed that way. Sometimes you get like a 2.999999. Just round that to 3. Okay, so it's a pixelation issue if that happens for you guys. Okay, now on the back, we're going to switch over to desmos really quick. So these are a little bit more complicated systems here that we have. And I sent you guys a link to this in your email, but it's just desmos.com. And let me just show you, if you use the link that I just gave you, it should take you directly to this screen that you see up here right now. But I'll just show you desmos.com. So this has a bunch of different things that you can do on it. It has all different kinds of calculators. They actually have this calculator. It's built into the SAT and the iLearn, which you guys are not going to take. But this is the calculator. We're going to do the graphing calculator, so that's the link that I sent you, and it should just display a graph here. Now, the nice thing about Desmos that's different from the calculator, if you have a calculator, it has to be in the format y equals. If you have Desmos, you can literally just type any of these equations as you see them appear. So, like the second one we're going to do in a second, it's got x squared plus y squared equals 25. You don't have to get y by itself like you would if you were doing that on the graphing calculator. Okay, so a couple of these are kind of weird graphs, but on the side here, like I just have the one, I'm just going to type in, just use your normal keys, y equals, and for the negative key, you can just use, there's a button next to the equal sign. If you want to, you can come down here. That'll give you a keypad if you want to use that instead of your actual keyboard on your calculator or on your computer there, but I just usually type it. And I'm going to do 8 over x, and then plus 3. And you guys will actually do graphs like this. This is in second semester, but just to show these to you today, some different types of systems. The second equation is a line. So y equals negative 1/2, and then I just arrow to the side to put the x next to it. Now, the super nice thing about Desmos versus the graphing calculator, as you guys can see, you can drag the screen with your fingers and make it bigger or smaller. The thing that's super nice about Desmos, if you take your mouse and you kind of go towards where you think these intersect, it will actually just kind of show up like a little bit of a gray point. If you click on it, it will tell you, like, here's the specific point. I click on it and it will actually keep that up as the display. So this is a little bit faster. You don't have to do that calculate, hit enter 3 times. It'll just hone right in on that on the computer program. So this one is a little tiny bit quicker to write down your intersections here. So I'm just going to come over. Oh, and it clicked off of it. So I'm just going to click on it again real quick so you can see. So the two solutions to this system, you've got negative 8, 4. and the other point those had in common, 2, -1. But that's all you have to do. So if you guys want to try this. Now, do you guys know how to, again, do you know how to square something on the computer? Just a little quick, if you want to do, like if I want to type the x squared, if you do x, you can use the little keyboard below. I'm so used to doing this all the time. Hit the shift key and the number 6. And if you look at the number 6 on your calculator, or on your keyboard, I can't even speak today. If you hit shift 6, that gives you an exponent. So x squared. And then I just use the arrow key to go back down to the line. Plus y, and I just do that shift 6 to square it. If you want to, the little keyboard down here will give you exponents as well. For me, that's just how I learned it, so it's faster for me to just do shift 6. But x squared plus y squared equals 25 should just be a circle. The other equation is a line, y equals 7x plus 25. And again, if you guys, you can drag the screen, you can make it bigger, make it smaller just with your fingers if you want to, but you're looking for the 2 intersection points. If you click anywhere on that graph, it should kind of give you like a gray point where they intersect, and if you want to actually click on the point, it'll hold and tell you, okay, here are my intersections. And let me move that back so I can see and write it on my paper here, but for your exponent, if you do the shift 6, you can square something pretty quick. My 2 intersections here, we got -3, 4, and -4, -3. If you did really want to check, you could actually plug these back into the system and see that they satisfy both equations that you got going on there. All right, and I have one more for us to look at, so I'm just going to do y equals, whoops, just closing those out here, maybe. Y equals -x squared plus 2, that's a parabola, and y equals 3. What would you guys write for your solution to this system? Like, no solution. You've got a parabola and you've got a line. They never intersect each other. The line is above the parabola. Everything on the parabola goes down forever, and so they'll never touch. So that last one should just be no solution. Okay, is anybody having a question about the Desmos or the graphing calculator? Okay, now, I have your homework.